All right, so let's go to album number 5, guys. Matt,
All right, so this is Josh is going to go first. This is Youth of America by Wipers. Comes in at number 156 in the 1980s on Best Ever Albums, number 12 in 1981, number 1027 of all time, and Wipers is ranked number 564 of all-time artists in Best Ever Albums. This is their highest-rated album on Best Ever Albums.
You know how you said that you love Teardrop Explodes and you knew it was a Matt album? Well, This is a Josh album.
It sure was. And I said the same thing. I said this was a John and Josh album right here. Yep. I felt as much about this as with you as I felt about the other one with Matt. Yep.
Right from the get-go, I was, blown away. It's garage rock. It's distorted guitars. It's stripped down. It sounded like the Strokes at times, which is always going to make me love it. There's some some great bass lines and a bass breakdown in a song like No Fair, which was really cool. And they weren't afraid to go long, which is not always the case for bands like this, guitar rock bands like this, or garage rock bands like this. Youth of America, which is I actually had to go to YouTube to listen to that because it wasn't on Amazon Music for some reason, even though the rest of the album is. And I really love that. I think it was a standout track, especially for being about around 10 minutes. My favorite song would probably be Can This Be, which is like punk rock in its sound. And actually, I liked every song on this album. When It's Over is an awesome kind of like instrumental song, or parts of it are instrumental, and then that is the song that reminded me of the Strokes the most. Something like Taking Too Long has an interesting piano in the chorus in the background, and they do throw some piano in throughout the album, which I really liked. And I like the vocal delivery that also was appealing, and I have no bad things to say about this album. So thumbs up.
Yeah, this is undercover jammer is what I'd say about this album right here. Yeah, no, this was a really good album. It vocally is like the hardcore albums that we listen to, and I know that they came out of the punk scene, and so there was a definite connection to the punk scene. It's also a short album of 30 minutes, but it's also 6 songs. So it's a short album, but it also has long songs, which you don't see very often in things that aren't jazz, right, or prog rock. And this is definitively not jazz or prog rock. This is the rare album where I'm not going to draw comparisons to other albums, because this is kind of in its own lane a little bit. Like, it's all over the place in terms of what's going on here. There's like psychedelic on this. There's, as Josh said, there's garage rock on this. There's tons of distortion on this album, all over the place guitar wise, which goes into the noise rock genre at different times. It's a young person's album. It sings about being young and being alienated, but it does it in a very different way than than we've seen up to this point in many ways. It's a dystopian look at the world. I found the sequencing of the album, it's just odd. You have like a 4-minute and 25-second song, and then a 10-minute song, and then a quick, very punkish Taking Too Long song, and you're going there, and then When It's Over comes back. I think When It's Over might be my favorite song on the entire album, but like you, Josh, I liked every song on here. This was a real find. I also have a hard time connecting this to a lot of things that came before it. I guess the best connection I could do is punk, because it's got punk elements, but it's not a true punk album. And now that I know about that similar albums, it's interesting, because the only band I really was comparing it to was like the hardcore bands, like Dead Kennedys, and they sound different than Black Flag and Dead Kennedys, but they're shared, and that's who comes up when you do this. I do think they mentioned X too, and there's some elements of what X was doing, and what this album was doing too, so that's another good comparison. But it doesn't sound like an exact fit for any of those albums. It's very much its own thing. I feel, and it really hit with me. Sonically, it was in the pocket at times, but then it got loose and distorted at other times. I love the fact that it veered so sharply from both of those sonic sounds. And yeah, real strong thumbs up for me. Matt, what did you think?
Yeah, I like this too. Probably not as much as you guys, but I did enjoy this a lot. John, is this an album we need to listen to before we die? Is that how we got this one? I
already told you it was one of the post-punk flashcards.
Oh, right. You said it earlier, right? Yes. Yeah. So this was. It's funny you mentioned too the hardcore thing, because I was picking up a little bit on that, particularly with Youth of America, the 10.5-minute long song, because there was. I'm hearing that, I'm going, this is kind of like hardcore, but like it's hardcore that I like, because it's. I think sonically it's not as abrasive, and there was more for me to, I don't know, hang my hat on with that one than a lot of the hardcore stuff. But yeah, I think I particularly liked that song and When It's Over. I think those are my two favorites, and those are the ones that kind of end both sides. Also, interestingly enough, it looks like on Wikipedia, it looks like the track listing is different, that side A is actually starts with Taking Too Long, and then it goes to When It's Over, and then No Fair and Youth of America are side 2. I don't know why Spotify has that inverted. But I just noticed that here now, so that's kind of that's interesting.
I listened to it. I think that's the same way. I listened to the track by the track order.
Oh yeah, and so Spotify has it different for some reason. But they're all the same songs.
Yeah, I think they pulled it from like the box set that came later of like everything that they had.
Oh,
I think it might have been put in a different order or something.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, anyway, the songs are all there, and I think this is more of a modern sounding album. Yeah, maybe the Strokes, but this sounds like. It definitely sounds like a 2000s type of indie rock kind of thing. Is what I was picking up a little bit more on that.
Well, 80s too. So, just bands we haven't covered yet.
80s too, but it sounded more. I was seeing more connections with some of the bands from like the 2000s and the 80s or 90s. But it certainly hits on all of those things probably, but it's a cool record overall. It's a cool. There's a lot of energy. It's not that long, but it does have like that. I really liked Youth of America. That was just I don't know. They got some grooves in there. Actually, Josh, I thought you might have been thrown off a bit by some of the talking that was done, because I knew that you were thrown off by that in a previous record that we did that you didn't really like as much, or maybe it was it Juju? No, it wasn't Juju. There was an album we just did recently. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was some
King
talking.
Crimson. It was King.
Yeah, right. You didn't like the talking in King Crimson, but this I was wondering if that didn't seem to bother you here.
No. I think because of the music was too appealing for him.
Yeah. So it's definitely like kind of garage rocky, kind of grungy, but it's also punky. And it's another cool find. Yeah, man, big. Thumbs up to just post-punk in general. Like, it's like, and it hits again.
This doesn't feel like it's in any genre. It really, like, there aren't a lot of comparative points for me. And they took a lot of sonic risks on this album. And I think it was by design. And I was kind of, just as we were talking right here, looking to see, like, the influence, right? And it's interesting who they influenced, because it's a lot of bands from the 80s that we haven't covered yet, like Dinosaur Jr. and the Melvins and Mudhoney and Nirvana and Sonic Youth, and I hear all of that in that. But
it's all grunge kind of stuff too, though. It's proto grunge. That's that. I just saw that here on Wikipedia.
I think the other key element,
but it doesn't sound proto grunge in its way, but you get the sort of the feeling of the album.
Yes.
Really is proto-grunge.
I saw too that they were from Portland, Oregon, and they're considered like the first Northwest punk band. So, and I think they recorded the album in Washington. So I think that's kind of why all those other bands,
Vancouver and Washington,
geographically are influenced by them.
Wow. Like we just mentioned, the Melvins and Mudhoney are Dinosaur Jr. I want to say is like Massachusetts, but. I like this album a lot. It was either this or Teardrop Explodes were the real finds this week in different ways.
Yeah, the Wikipedia page on kind of their origins and like what their interests are is very interesting too. It's not a long by any means, but the lead singer guy, Greg Sage, he was interested. He was able to make his own albums because due to what his dad brought home, and like the actual
his own albums,
like making the actual vinyl, and
like the actual product.
And he became like fascinated with like the grooves in the tracks on the albums and stuff. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, and here you go, John. Kurt Cobain listed this as one of his top 50 albums of all time.
Well, I mean, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It really does. I mean, I could see lots of people being influenced by this if they came across it, because
this is cool.
It's sonically a little bit of everything, and that could probably sound too ambitious if done incorrectly, but I really thought they hit, and there were no weak spots on this.
People mention, I'm seeing goth mentioned in here, and there's a little bit of that as well. I didn't even a little bit, not like I wouldn't call this a goth record, but there's definitely elements of that too. Yeah, they are really drawing on a lot of different things. The more I'm thinking about it,
that's why I was like, I don't really see like when we try to do this sounds like, or this it wasn't that way to me. It's like this is its own thing, and I kind of enjoyed it as its own piece.
Yeah,
so, thumbs up, Wipers.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, same.